Okay, hello everybody. So today I wanted to read a comment I made on Facebook regarding the Kavanaugh debate. I originally didn't want to write or say too much about it. I generally like to kind of hold back and save my ideas for later, especially as information's coming about and as I try to catch up on all the information surrounding a story. But I don't know, I just saw so many people writing about it that I was compelled to put my own 2 cents in. And you may hear a cat in the background. That's my cat Coffee, if you do. Okay, so first I start with Bayes' theorem as an argument. So Bayes' theorem is a way of looking at the statistical probability of an event occurring or of an outcome being true given evidence. Using Bayesian analysis to determine whether an event is likely, we not only look at a set of given priors, we also hopefully update incrementally as new evidence comes to light. For most things, Bayesian reasoning is invaluable in determining how we should navigate difficult problems. Interestingly, when we look at the Kavanaugh debate, it seems that much of the frustration stems from whether or not to invoke this theory. In other words, I think where people get stuck is not on whether Kavanaugh is more likely to be guilty. Most agree that he is. The disagreement seems to be on which type of error would be worse to make. Some would say that while it is more likely from a Bayesian sense that Kavanaugh is guilty, the stakes are so high when it comes to this sort of judgment that we should err on the side of caution to the extent that, under normal circumstances, we would seem patently unreasonable. We might draw a comparison to the idea of checking a gun multiple times successively to ensure that it's not loaded, even though we could have been quite sure after the first check, because one type of error is deadly. For many people, when it comes to cases like this, where there is an amount of uncertainty, it would be better to err on the side where those who are guilty go free than to convict an innocent person. However, as many have pointed out correctly, this is not a criminal case. This is what those on the political left tend to get right. Since this is not a criminal case but a Supreme Court nomination, the stakes are so high that one should risk being unreasonable in the opposite direction, being exceptionally choosy in who is selected, especially given that there are just so many other equally incompetent right-wing judges that Trump could choose to nominate. And no, that doesn't mean that, this is aside from my comment, that there aren't possibly competent judges that could be nominated. Still, the political right makes some fair points. Because neither side can know what happened with certainty, Kavanaugh's dismissal as a candidate might set a precedent that could backfire against competent appointments in the future. And even though this is not a criminal case, there still seems to be something lacking in the way many have weighed in on the issue. In future, more difficult cases, how would we define a weak statistical Bayesian argument? And could one exist, given that upwards of 90% of sexual assault cases are true? Would any accusation constitute enough reason to throw out a nomination? This is a door left open and not dealt with all that well by either party. Surely there are cases like this one where a nomination should be invalidated, and surely it's possible that we may build a flaw into the system that could be gained in the future if we treated all cases like this one. How will we differentiate between the two extremes in the future? Is it even fair to ask these questions? Some would say no, and it is because of this response that I worry that the political right might be winning the culture war, which is why search terms like red pill and walk away yield so many millions of hits on our various social portals. Some of the left, at least some of my Facebook friends, have taken extreme positions that ought to be indefensible in a modern society. A few have argued that one should always believe survivors because roughly 90% are telling the truth. This argument loses many, and understandably it does, because most people want to live in a society where the burden of proof is not to show that one is innocent, but the other way around, and where immutable characteristics are irrelevant to the probability that the claim is true, though regrettably we're not there yet. That is, our legal system ideally should be based on a more pragmatic set of principles necessary for a well-functioning society that ensures all people get a fair trial and a chance to defend themselves without the incredible task of trying to prove a negative. And yes, this can be troubling because this will mean that we will get many cases wrong. Unfortunately, if you take this approach, you are characterized negatively. You're not an ally to women, or worse, you're a rape apologist. And I want to point out, if I've strawmanned the position, I think it's that the left has strawmanned itself, and perhaps we need to do a better job of cleaning up bad ideas on our own side, because I see more arguments that look like the ones I've just given. And I want to reiterate, I think that the left is largely correct on Kavanaugh. This is not a criminal context. Not only is Kavanaugh likely to be guilty, but he is also likely to have perjured himself at the very least on a number of claims he's made. And there are just plenty of other competitive and competent candidates to choose from.